Hi everyone, my name is Ahmad Muinuddin from section 5.
Section
Pose with the fans. Pose with the pose with the pose with the fans. Pose with the pose with the pose with the fans.
Assalamualaikum everyone, my name is Ahmad Muinuddin bin Noh Ishamuddin from section 5, Law of Tort. So, today we'll be reviewing the case of Tenaga Nasional Berhad and Panareno Sdn Berhad involving the third party Vital Project Sdn Berhad and the fourth party Semantra Nordic Engineering Sdn Berhad. This case was adjudicated at the High Court of Kuala Lumpur by Judicial Commissioner Faizah Jamuluddin, and the decisions was delivered on the 7th of December 2018. This case primarily revolves around the area of negligence under law of tort. Negligence is a fundamental concept in tort law that occurs when a party fails to exercise reasonable care, harming another party. To establish negligence, the claimant must prove 4 key elements of the negligence. First, duty of care owed by the defendant. Second, a breach of that duty. Third, causation linking the breach to the harm. And lastly, actual damage suffered by the claimant. This area of law plays a crucial role in regulating relationships between parties, assuring accountability and providing remedies for wrongful acts. The case of Tenaga Nasional Berhad and Panareno Sdn Berhad is significant because it underscores the responsibilities of contractors when working near sensitive and critical infrastructure. It highlights the necessity of adhering to safety protocols, respecting directives from stakeholders, and ensuring that technical disputes are supported by reliable and admissible evidence. The judgment serves as an important precedent, reinforcing the principles of negligence and emphasizing the potential consequences of failing to meet professional standards. Moving on to the material facts of the case. Parties involved. First, the plaintiff, Tenaga Nasional Berhad TNB, is a Malaysia's national electricity utility company. Second, the defendant, Panareno Sdn Berhad, is a construction contractor engaged to carry out pipe laying works. Finally, the third party, Vital Project Sdn Berhad, and the fourth party, Semantra Nordic Sdn Berhad, were subcontractors hired by Panareno to assist in the project. So, what happened was, it all started when construction work got too close to a critical TNB power cable. This 132 kV underground cable supplies electricity to areas between Damansara Heights and Brickfields. The construction company, Panareno, was laying water pipes as a part of an integrated water supply works for proposed service apartments. They informed TNB about their plans, but the work was set to happen very close to this essential cable. Concerned about the risk of damage and potential disruptions, TNB raised the alarm. TNB then issued explicit instructions to Panareno, directing them to cease all activities near the cable until its location was identified and safety measures were implemented. They even visited the site to assess the situation together with the rep from Panareno and the subcontractors. During this visit, TNB reiterated its concerns and the necessity of following safety protocols strictly. After the visit, Panareno wrote a letter to the TNB telling that they would proceed with the work using a specific method, to which TNB replied immediately the following day, strictly disapproving the work to continue as the location of the cable cannot be determined. Despite these clear warnings and directives, Panareno proceeded with the construction works without complying with TNB's instructions. On December 4, 2010, during the execution of the pipe laying works, the 132 kV cable was damaged, resulting in a significant disruptions to the electricity supply. The damage caused substantial inconvenience and financial losses to the two neighborhoods. Investigations conducted after the incident revealed that the construction activities directly caused the damage. One of the critical issues in the case was the defense presented by Panareno, which included a survey plan prepared by a licensed land surveyor. This plan demonstrated that the pipeline works were conducted at a depth that should not have interfered with the cable. However, the surveyor did not provide oral testimony in the court, rendering the survey plan inadmissible as expert evidence under Section 45 of the Evidence Act 1950. The lack of admissible evidence significantly weakened Panareno's defense.
Later, the Judicial Commissioner raised and analyzed 5 issues before arriving at her decision. The first issue is whether the cable damage as a direct result of the act of defendant, its servant and or agents in carrying out the relevant piping works and or the set of pipe works. The defendants admit in its pleading that the cable was damaged and this damage was resulted from the pipe works. However, defendant denies negligence and claims that the damage was unforeseeable and too remote. According to the legal principle, pleading binds the party. The federal court in Simon bin Umar emphasized that the court cannot make findings contrary to the admission in the pleading. Therefore, it is clear that the cable was indeed a damage as a direct result of the pipe conducted by the defendant, its employees and its agent. So, the court held that this legal issue was decided in affirmative. The second issue is whether in carrying out relevant piping works and or the set of pipe work, the defendant, its servants and or agents had complied with the condition and specifications set out by TNB. TNB issued a clear instruction that the pipe work should not proceed until the cable at that location was confirmed. Despite this, the evidence showed that defendant and its contractor did not dig a tri-hole for the receiving pit up for 4 meters. They proceed with work without obtaining TNB's prior approval. They ignore the expert advice even after being informed of the cable location. This non-compliance was confirmed by TNB letter, the expert witness and the other evidence. To conclude, the defendant did not comply with the TNB's condition. The third issue is whether the defendant was in negligent, willful neglect and or a breach of their duty in carrying out relevant piping works and or the set of pipe works. The first one is a breach of duty. The defendant had a contractual duty to identify the exact location of TNB's cable before beginning the pipe checking works, as well as a statutory obligation under Electricity Supply Act 1990 to obtain TNB permission before proceeding. The defendant failed to identify the cable's location and this resulted in the damage to the cable. The court found that the defendant and its contractor were negligent in carrying out the work, breaching their duty of care to TNB. The second, non-deligible duty of care. The defendant owes a TNB non-delegable duty of care, meaning that although the defendant can delegate the task, the responsibility to ensure the proper execution of the work remained with them. The non-deligible duty arises from the relationship between the defendant and TNB, particularly from the contractual agreement. This duty protects TNB property and the public safety. To answer this legal issue, the court referred to the case of Woodland and Essex Country Council, where it was established that a non-delegable duty exists situation where defendant required to protect others from a certain risk due to specific relationship with them. The court also referred to the case of TNB and Shabazz, where a similar non-delegable duty was found, and failure to take reasonable care lead to liability, even if the work was delegated to independent contractor. In this case, the defendant found liable for negligence or its contractors as a duty to ensure the cable location was properly identified and protected was non-delegable. The failure to conduct proper checks and ensure care during the work resulted in TNB's cable being damaged, and the defendant is held responsible. The fourth issue, if the answer to issue 2 is in the affirmative, whether the damage caused to the cable was reasonably foreseeable. TNB instructed the defendant consultant, APEC, to stop the pipe works until the exact location of the cable was determined for safety reasons. A site visit was arranged on 16 August 2010 where TNB showed the defendant and contractor the cable road and where to dig the thread hole. On 19 August 2010, TNB sent a letter reiterating that the pipe work should not proceed until the cable location was identified and marked. TNB witness testified that the cable installed in 1986 is about 1.6 meter below the road surface, and resurfacing had likely placed it at a depth of around 4 meters. Defendant's contractor, after encountering the monsoon drain, decided to proceed with constructing a receiving pit without consulting TNB in violation of TNB instruction. On 5 October 2010, during a site visit after the disruption of electricity, TNB found that the damaged cable under the monsoon drain at the location TNB had originally marked for the thread hole. Expert witness stated that the contractor could not have continued the digging of the thread hole by supporting the monsoon drain. The damage to the cable was deemed to be foreseeable and not too remote. The last issue is whether TNB is entitled to rely on the maxim of res ipsa loquitur. TNB successfully argued that they could rely on the res ipsa loquitur, which means the thing speaks for itself. The court found that the damage to the cable was likely caused by the defendant's negligence and its contractor. The damage occurred due to work performed by the Vital Project and the Sumantra, who were under defendant's control. And lastly, the exact cause of the damage was unclear, supporting the interference of the negligence.
Few moments later.
Hi. In this section, I will critically examine and review the decision in Tenaga Nasional Berhad versus Panareno in light of the principles of tort law. My analysis will focus on the reasoning behind the court's decision, the authority cited, and the implication for future case. The judgment of the Judicial Commissioner Faiza Jamaluddin is legally spot on, and we think it is grounded on a well-established tort law principles, particularly first, the non-delegable duties, number 2, negligence, and thirdly, the application of the maxim res ipsa loquitur. The court's decision that Panareno owed non-delegable duty of care to TNB aligns with the precedent and reflects the public policy consideration that parties who undertake hazardous activities, especially those impacting public utilities, cannot escape liability by delegating responsibilities to contractor. This approach is entirely consistent with the reasoning in Honeywell and Stein Limited versus Larkin Bros, which is the leading authority on the principle of non-delegable duty in law of tort. Certain activities that inherently carry risk require the party commissioning the work to remain responsible. So the application of res ipsa loquitur was appropriate given the circumstances of the case. The damage to the underground cable was a type of incident that ordinarily would not have occurred without negligence. By relying on this Latin maxim, res ipsa loquitur, the court rightly shifted the evidential burden to the defendant to disprove negligence. If we were to consider the principles laid down in Scott and London and St. Catherine Docks Code 1865. The application in this case is consistent in cases involving situation within defendant's control that resulted in harm. The next thing that I would like to analyze is the supporting of the court's decision. We felt that the court's reliance on TNB's explicit warning and detailed guidelines strengthened its reasoning. TNB had repeatedly informed Panareno and its contractor of the potential risks and the necessity to identify the exact location of the cables before proceeding with the trenching. Despite this warning, the contractor failed to comply fully, and this directly led to the damage. We should remember that at a certain point of time, the cable was discovered and Panareno has failed to communicate this finding to TNB. Therefore, the possibility of harm was clearly established, and we think this is fundamental and it is in line with Caparo Industries PLC versus Dickman. The decision also underscored the importance of adherence to contractual and statutory obligation when dealing with public infrastructure. By holding Panareno liable, the court actually sent a strong message about the seriousness of such obligation. Next is on the ambiguities and some unanswered questions in this case. While the decision is robust, it is not without ambiguities. One key area left unexplored was the role of TNB's supervision during the works. Although TNB provided specific guidelines, the judgment does not necessarily address whether TNB's level of supervision met the standards of diligence expected in publicly important cases. Could more active oversight have prevented the damage? This remains unanswered. Another ambiguity lies in the standard of care required of the contractors. The court ruled that the Panareno was negligent despite its claim that the works were carried out at the depth exceeding 4 meters as stipulated. However, the lack of detailed finding on whether this depth was indeed adhered to and whether it was sufficient to avoid the cable create a bit more of uncertainty.
Later.
In our final analysis, we felt that the court decision is well reasoned and aligned with fundamental tort principle. It appropriately emphasized accountability and the non-delegable nature of duties in high-risk scenario. However, the judgment could have provided greater clarity on the role of TNB supervision and the adequacy of defendants' adherence to guidelines. As future cases build on this precedent, this unanswered question may guide the development of more comprehensive legal framework for addressing liability in infrastructure projects.
And she's here.
For the conclusions, the case of Tenaga Nasional Berhad and Panareno Sdn Bhd is a worthy and instructive example within the domain of the law of negligence. It reinforces critical legal principles, particularly the duty of care owed by the contractors when working near sensitive infrastructure and the consequences of breaching that duty. The court's findings demonstrates the importance of adhering to safety protocols, respecting directives from infrastructure owners, and the necessity for reliable expert evidence in technical disputes.